Quality City, the value of ISO 9001 and quality management in municipalities. Facilitating our webinar today will be David Forget. David is the manager of quality service for the town of Ajax, Ontario, which is an Intellex client and was one of the first municipalities in North America to achieve ISO 9001 certification. So today, David's going to be sharing some of his knowledge and experience with us in terms of the challenges, benefits, and return on investment that stem from implementing a quality management system within a municipal organization. So just a couple housekeeping items to go over before we get started. Number one, just a reminder to close out any other applications you may have running to avoid any bandwidth issues that may affect the audio or video quality of the webinar. And number two, if you do have any questions for David, there's going to be a designated question and answer period at the end of the webinar. So please just use the questions tab on your GoToMeeting panel and submit them through that, and David will address them at the end. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to David, and we can get started.
Thank you very much, JP. As you mentioned, I am the manager of quality service and special projects with the town of Ajax, and I've been with the town of Ajax now for 22 years. I got my initial training in the planning and development services department as a planner, which certainly was great groundwork for me to get into the area of quality in terms of working with customers, working with council, working with a whole lot of players in the quality field. So I've been involved now for 12 years, specifically in the area of quality and customer service, and certainly almost the entire time that we've had our ISO registration. I oversee as well in my job a number of quality committees, which is our internal review team, which is a way of keeping the system in check. I'm considered the management representative of the quality system, so I'm the go-to person for documentation as well as any kind of ISO requirements, as well as our corporate steering, which is our top management group, and our document liaisons who are responsible for maintaining all of the required documentation within ISO. So just like to give you a really quick outline for this afternoon's webinar. I want to talk about my experiences with implementing the quality management system, specifically within the municipal environment, which is kind of unique. Talk a little bit about why the town adopted ISO registration, some of the challenges in implementing a quality management system, as well as, and most importantly, getting buy-in from staff to undergo a project of this type, as well as, and finally, talking about the relationship between quality management systems and improved business performance. So very, very brief outline about what ISO is. ISO is not an acronym. If it were, it would be the International International Standardization for Organization, which it is not. So that's always our fun little quality quiz, is what does ISO mean. It was founded in Geneva, Switzerland. It is an international governing body of best practices. Basically, Canada, U.S., many bodies from around the world sit on this international board and provide input into the international standard. And I call it a body of best practice because really that's what it is. It takes into account interpretation of the standard, different languages, all of those kinds of things to make it the standard that it is. And it is in fact reviewed every 5 years. Certainly the premise and the base point of the ISO standard is its focus on customer service and satisfaction. In fact, customer service and satisfaction is written to every single element. There's 8 elements in the standard, and it's written into each and every one, so it's that important. ISO is also based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act premise of quality. It's certainly not native to ISO. It's native for a lot of quality models, but it's based on the premises that you plan for quality. You document your procedures in terms of how you're going to, if for a municipality, how you're going to deliver a service. You actually carry out the service. That's the do part. Then you check for the differences. So did the operating procedure meet the requirements of the customer? Was the customer satisfied? How did it work? If it did, great. You keep maintaining that. If it didn't, then you act on the differences and you implement those changes to involve continuous improvement. So it's a continuous loop. If you actually see it on a diagram, it's an actual circle. The current standard is the 2008 standard. For anybody that's registered now, it's this is our third version of the standard that we have been registered to. Talk to you a little bit about the town of Ajax. Our population now is just in excess of 100,000 residents. We have just over 300 full-time staff, and then during peak periods, during the summer and whatnot, we have 300 part-time staff at capacity. And as PJ mentioned, JP mentioned, it involves all of our departments, which also includes our fire service as well as the library. So it truly is a registration of all the departments in the town. There's no department that is excluded in the scope of our registration. Talk a little bit about some of the common misconceptions about ISO, and certainly during my time at the town of Ajax maintaining our quality system, we've had a lot of interest from municipalities across Canada as well as the United States, and you know, of course they want to know how we did it, how it's working, how much it costs. Those are sort of the standard pat questions. And to be honest, I mean, we were kind of leaders in many ways in terms of implementing a quality system at a municipal level, but there hasn't been a lot of uptake in the 12 years that I've been doing this job in other municipalities. The only other fully registered municipality in Canada is the city of Fredericton, and they were registered about 8 years ago. So some of the common misconceptions, though, however, you know, is that it's too difficult, it's too hard to maintain, that it will cost a municipality too much to implement, that the ISO standards will actually tie their hands in terms of how they conduct their business, that it's too hard to maintain on an ongoing basis, and really the standard only applies to business and industry, and it's not really applicable to the public sector. None of those statements are true, and certainly if you have questions specifically around those areas, I'd be happy to provide you more information today. But some of that will obviously be covered off as well as I move through the presentation. So we'll talk a little bit about the accomplishment. We were the first in Ontario, and in fact, when you drive into Ajax, our signs say first in Ontario. You may wonder why we say that when we say we're also the first in North America. There was an actual municipality just outside of Quebec City, St. Augustin, that was ISO registered. They were about 18 months ahead of us in the scheme of things, and we certainly learned a lot from them, and there was a lot of information sharing, which was wonderful. But technically, they were the first in Canada, so we tout ourselves as the first in Ontario. However, we do know that from our registrar that we are the first fully registered municipality in North America, meaning all of our departments are part of are under the scope of our ISO registration, and that's been the case right from the get-go. We didn't do it on a pilot basis. We registered all departments right from the get-go. We completed it in just over 1 year. In fact, it was about 14 months to complete the registration, which is actually very aggressive and very quick. There's good things and bad things about that. Certainly some of the good things is to implement a system within 14 months is very robust, and it keeps the process alive and current. It doesn't stagnate. But there's challenges in doing it quickly, in that sometimes you don't necessarily have the time to get the necessary buy-in from staff. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. But most registered firms take at least almost 2 years from the time of inception until the time of registration to complete the task. We certainly didn't do it alone. We did use the consultancy of the PIC Group, or known as the Productivity Improvement Center, and we were very lucky to have them in a neighboring municipality in the city of Oshawa. And they were a wonderful resource for us in terms of understanding the standard, learning how it applied, and getting all of our documentation in order that would not only meet our requirements but also the requirements of the international standard. We did a registrar search as well back in 1996, and at the end of the day, Underwriters Laboratory, DQS, was given the nod, and we have been with that registration firm ever since. Certainly they have an excellent reputation, and of course if you look at anything that's electronic, almost any and all of it is ULDQS registered, but of course they do other kinds of registrations as well, including quality. And as I mentioned, all the departments are included in the scope of our registration. Certainly some of the thought process around, you know, why did we go with ISO, and why would a municipality want to embark on something like this? I'll give you the real Coles Note version on this. The CAO of the day, back in 1994, was fairly new to the town of Ajax and wanted to implement things and wanted to really operate government more like a business. And he had done it in another municipality where he had just come from, and it was successful. So he decided to try it at the town of Ajax, and it worked. And that is a program called the STARS program. It's an acronym standing for Saving Town of Ajax Real Dollars. And basically what it was a pilot program of 10 months, and it was based on employee suggestion. And the employees were encouraged to make improvements in terms of the way we deliver services, as well as some of the the fixed costs and things like hydro, heating, you name it, even looking at unit costs for colored letterhead and eliminating the use of Post-it notes and things like that. So it was fun. It was interactive. Employees were encouraged to, using the Nike slogan, "Just do it," and so improvements were made. And there was a promise given at the time that by the CAO that no jobs would be lost as a result of this cost-saving program, and that in fact services would not be reduced in any way, shape, or form to the customer. In fact, in most cases, they were improved. So it was a highly successful program. It received national attention. It was highlighted on the Canadian program W5 on 2 occasions. It was the write-ups in the national paper, the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, about the program. It was highly successful. It certainly was also, aside from the cost savings aspect of it, it certainly created a lot of a morale booster. As I say, a lot of cross-departmental teams were involved. It wasn't just departments within themselves who were making improvements, and the focus was on unit cost initially. But that was why we ended up going with the ISO registration. The STARS program really laid out ways in which we could improve services. ISO was viewed as a model to implement. It was to document those improved services, and as a way and a tool and a mechanism to make improvements along the way, so that we would continue to do and provide the same effective services in a consistent fashion. So as I mentioned, STARS was 1994. The ISO decision came in about 2 years later with full council endorsement. So again, building on the STARS program and philosophy of saving money, but also making improvements, improving customer satisfaction. Building on an existing customer focus that we did in fact have in place, and Ajax has always prided itself on being, even though we're a vastly growing municipality, maintaining kind of that small town feel and being really responsive to customer requirements and customer needs. As also was seen as a tool to improve service delivery, as I mentioned, and certainly viewed as a marketing tool. And then currently, right now in Ajax, Ajax has over 70 employers which are also ISO registered. And the kind of neat thing about ISO, for those of you who may not know much about ISO, for the municipalities within our jurisdiction that, for the businesses within our jurisdiction that have ISO registration. For example, we have a company called Dowdy Aerospace. They make landing gear for aircraft. Now they perform a very, very different service and a very, very different function from what we do at the town of Ajax. But if you were to look at their documentation and you were to look at our documentation, they would be virtually identical. And that's really what ISO is all about. ISO comes from the Greek word isos, meaning equal or the same. So the town of Ajax and a company that makes landing gear do very different things, but the way that our system is structured is identical. So I'll talk a bit about our documentation structure, because really that is the backbone of a quality system. The ISO standard requires that you have documented procedures for basically everything you do. So if it's something you manufacture, it's a process. If it's a service you deliver, it's a process. It's no different. Currently, our system is made up of just over 850 documents. We have 251 procedures, 209 work instructions, and 309 related forms. And basically, procedures, just to give you a quick overview, procedures are operating procedures are documents which are high level, which generally describe how in our case, a service is to be performed. Work instructions are a little more nitty-gritty, day-to-day detail about how tasks are completed, and then the form